Imagine waking up in a room you don't recognize. The air is heavy, musty, filled with something you can't quite place. There are no windows, just bars, and faint sounds of moaning echo down the corridor. Welcome to the 19th century. Welcome to a Victorian insane asylum. For the next 3 hours, we are taking a full deep dive into the experience of what it was truly like to live, suffer, survive, or not survive inside one of history's most terrifying institutions. From daily routines and bizarre statements to real stories of those who were locked away and the terrifying psychology behind it all. This is not just history, this is horror that was all too real. You wake up to the sound of something scraping across stone. It might be a chair, or maybe someone. You're not so sure. Your eyes open slowly, crusted with something old. The light in the room is grey, more like permanent grey. It filters through a high barred window that might not even be real. You stop checking. The bed beneath you is a sack of straw, damp and old. You shift and it groans under your weight. So do your joints. You ache in places you don't know you could ache. Your blanket, coarse wool thing that stains you don't want to identify, smells like mildew, salt, and a hint of bleach. Someone tried to clean it once. They didn't try hard. Your tunic, the only clothing you're allowed to wear, scratches your skin like sandpaper. It's stiff with dried sweat, or worse. Your bare feet touch the stone floor. It's wet, always is. You don't know what time it is. Clocks aren't for patience. Time in here is marked by one thing, the bell, and it hasn't rung yet. The bell means movement, shuffling, groaning, feeding, washing, sometimes punishment. But for now, silence. And the silence in this place is never empty. It's full of things you try not to hear. You sit up, slowly. Your body resists. The air is thick, not with warmth, but with presence. Bleach, urine, mildew, body odor, wet wool, something sour, something faintly coppery. There's no such thing as fresh in here, only less rotten. The walls are painted institutional green, supposedly calming. They've started to peel. There's a crack in the corner that grows bigger every week. You've started counting bricks. You're not the first. Your door is heavy. Reinforced wood with a black iron latch. There's a slot at eye level. It opens at night. You've never seen her open set. It closes too quickly. Somewhere down the corridor, A scream slices through the quiet. A man yelling about fire, or God, or rats. Then silence. Then laughter. The halls here echo forever. Screams sound like they come from the walls. Sometimes you wonder if they do. You look around. You try to remember how you got here. You try not to remember. The last thing you recall, was it a doctor, a conversation, a signature, or a man telling you it's for your own good? Diagnosis: hysteria. Reason: exhibiting nervousness, an unwomanly desire for education, and a refusal to marry. Sarah's brother, her only male guardian, noted that she had been writing too often in her journal and was showing signs of discontent. She was admitted involuntarily. Treatment included full isolation, ice immersion therapy, and rest cure. After 23 years inside, her file ends with a single note. Quiet, compliant, no longer writes. You wonder, how long have you been here? A week? A month? There's no calendar, no sun, no counting the days. Only the bell, the guards, the screaming, and the waiting. Welcome to your new reality. You're not here to be healed. You're here to disappear. The bell rings. Your day has begun, if you can call this living. The bell has rung. There is no snooze button in this asylum. No soft lighting or gentle wake-up music. Just one sound. The sharp metallic clang that means it's time to move. And if you don't, they'll move you. You peel yourself off the mattress. Your knees pop. Your back throbs. The air is colder now, somehow. But no one offers you clothes. You wear what you slept in. Because that's all you have. Down the corridor, others are rising too, or being pulled from bed. You hear a nurse shouting, then a slap, then silence. There's a rhythm to this place, a schedule disguised as treatment. But it's not for your benefit. It's for theirs. You shuffle down the hallway. You're barefoot. Everyone is. The stone floor bites your feet with every step. You reach the washroom, if you can call it that. It's a cold, grey space with 2 cracked basins and a rust-stained floor drain. The nurse hands you a rag. Wet, slimy, shared. You dip it in the cold metal basin. The water is grey already. Someone else used it. You don't know who or when. You dab it on your face. It counts as washing. Soap? That's a privilege. And you're not privileged. You're told to scrub quickly. Don't waddle. Don't speak. Don't look anyone in the eye. Some patients don't bother. Some refuse. One is crying silently into the sink. No one comforts him. That's not the kind of place this is. Back in the yard, it's inspection time. The nurses come down the row, faces like statues. They check your bedding, your clothes, your hands, your hair. They are not looking for dirt. They are looking for contraband. Paper clips, thread, a sharp chip of porcelain. Anything you could use to escape. Or worse, they don't talk to you. Just nod, grunt, pull something from someone's pillow and move on. Your neighbor, an old man named Marcus, doesn't pass inspection. He has a spoon hidden in his sleeve. The nurse finds it. She says nothing. He doesn't eat breakfast that day. You line up in the hallway, bodies hunched, silent, waiting for the door to open. The cafeteria smells like boiled sadness and cabbage. You take a wooden bowl. Inside it is gruel, pale, lumpy, lukewarm. Next to it, a chunk of bread so hard it could be used as a weapon. It cracks when you bite it. You chew slowly, carefully. A chipped tooth in here means agony. There's also a tin cup. Sometimes it holds tea, usually water. Today, it tastes like rust. You eat in silence. Talking isn't allowed. A nurse walks the aisle with a stick. Tap, tap, watching. One patient spills their bowl. The nurse takes it away. No replacement. There are no second chances here. Just empty stomachs. After breakfast, you're ushered back into the hallway. Time for roll call. Patients are counted. Names shouted. Not all answer. 2 beds are empty today. One because the patient died in the night. The other, no one knows. They say she bit a nurse and was taken to the lower ward. No one comes back from the lower ward. You stand still, head down, hands by your side. You say your name when told. You don't ask questions. That's how you survive. In the 19th century, the dominant psychiatric method was known as moral treatment. The idea was simple: structure, silence, order, and strict routine would rehabilitate the mentally ill. Patients were not encouraged to express emotion. They were told to follow rules, speak politely, perform labor, and avoid anything that might cause excitation. Too much joy? Mania. Too much sadness? Melancholia. Too much talking? Delusion. Too much silence? Suspicion. There was no way to be safe, only silent. And so you began your day, washed, inspected, fed, and counted like livestock or inventory. The bell rings again. Time for therapy, whatever that means. Now it's time for your examination. They call it an interview. But that word implies fairness, conversation, consent. None of those exist here. You're escorted wordlessly down a corridor lined with gas lanterns and oil portraits of dead doctors who believed headaches were caused by demons and menstrual blood. The floor creaks beneath your feet. The door to the examining room looms like a confession booth. You're told to sit. He enters without knocking. White beard, thick glasses. He doesn't smile. He never does. He doesn't look at you. He looks through you. His desk is stacked with files, leather bound, some stained, some yours. He opens a folder. You hear the scrape of a pen, the scratching of a judgment being born. Do you believe your thoughts are real? Have you ever laughed alone? What do you think of your father? Do you feel morally confused? You answer, it doesn't matter how. Yes, it's dangerous. No, it's suspicious. I don't know is a red flag. He checks your eyes, your pulse, your nails. He lifts your tongue with a cracked wooden stick and nods. Then comes the skull probe. He takes out a brass caliper and begins measuring your forehead, your jaw, the angle of your nose. Phrenology, he calls it, the science of the skull. According to him, your mental state can be read like a map. A bump above your ear? That's delusion. A flat forehead? Weak moral instinct. A long nose? Narcissism. A short one? Submissive tendencies. The diagnosis was made before you even sat down. Phrenology was one of the many pseudosciences embraced by Victorian psychiatrists, developed in the early 1800s. It claimed that mental traits, intelligence, criminality, even obedience could be determined by the shape of the skull. It was absolute nonsense. But it was a convenient nonsense. It gave doctors a way to diagnose without understanding, to label without empathy, to declare a patient incurable without ever speaking to them. He scribbles a few words in your file. Melancholia, possibly moral insanity. The label is inked, indelible. You've been stamped. You want to ask what it means. You don't dare. He asks you one final question. Do you feel guilt? Before you can answer, he waves his hand. You're dismissed. The orderly outside doesn't look at you. He takes you by your arm and leads you out, back into the hallway, where another patient is already waiting. You pass her. She has tear tracks on her face and blood on her sleeve. She's smiling. Mini case file interlude. Henry L. Age 34. 1875. Diagnosis: monomania of suspicion. Symptoms: believed his employer was embezzling money. Claimed to hear whispers behind closed doors. Treatment: isolation, ice immersion. Prognosis: delusional, combative, declared untreatable after 3 months. Fate: died during a corrective incident involving 3 orderlies and a wooden restraint chair. Cause listed as complication of spirits. He was right about the embezzlement, but dead men win no arguments. Once you're diagnosed, it becomes you. Not a condition, a sentence. You're no longer a name. You are a diagnosis code, written in ink, a category on a chart. Hysteria, melancholia, dementia precox, catatonia, monomania. One size fits all suffering. You might wonder, could I convince them I'm sane? But sanity isn't what they are measuring. They are measuring compliance, silence, stillness. For women, one of the most common diagnoses was hysteria, a condition supposedly rooted in the uterus. Women who read too much, hysteria. Who spoke up, hysteria. Who disobeyed, cried, resisted marriage, asked questions, hysteria. Treatment included forced bed rest, starvation, electrotherapy, even surgical removal of the uterus in extreme cases. It wasn't care, it was correction. You return to your ward. You're not the same. You carry the diagnosis now. It follows you, sits in your file, whispers behind your name whenever a nurse walks by. It determines what food you get, what work you're assigned, whether you'll ever leave. You lie down. The bell rings again. It's time for therapy. They call it therapy. You learn quickly it's not what you think. In here, treatment isn't meant to heal. It's meant to correct, to pacify, to punish. They don't ask how you feel. They decide how you should feel. And if you resist that, they have methods. You're led to the hydrotherapy room. The smell hits first. Mold, iron, wet bandages, a metal tub, stained cold, waiting. The water inside is near freezing. They don't ask if you're ready. They don't explain why. Hands grip your arms. You're lowered into the water. Slowly, deliberately. Every nerve screams. Your body spasms. You can't breathe. They hold you there. 10 minutes. 15. You're told it cools the blood. That's it. Quiet agitation. It feels like drowning without death. And when they pull you out, you're not allowed to speak. They wrap you in wet sheets, lock you in a room, and call it progress. If the weights don't calm you, they move you to stimulation. They call it galvanism. You know it by another name, electric shock. 2 damp sponges are pressed to your temples. You're told to sit still, not to bite your tongue. The current hits, violent, sudden. Your lips convulse. Your jaw clenches. Your vision blurs to static. They say it resets your thoughts. You don't feel reset. You feel erased. Some patients scream. Some don't wake up. Your behavior, they say, is caused by imbalance. The humors are out of order. The cure? Drain the excess. They slice your arm with a dull lancet or attach leeches behind your ears. You feel your energy fade. You grow dizzy. That means it's working. Then comes the purge. They give you a chalky liquid, bitter, thick. You vomit violently. You're not allowed to stop until the basin is full. They smile. You've been cleansed. If you're a woman and your symptoms are delicate, they prescribe rest. Not sleep, not comfort, just stillness. Endless hollow stillness. You're confined to bed for weeks, sometimes months. No reading, no writing, no talking. Just lying still, staring at the ceiling while your muscles atrophy and your mind erodes. You're not allowed to work or think. Your meals are fed to you by hand. They say it will restore your feminine calm. What it really restores is Disobedience. Dr. Silas Weir Mitchell, a leading physician of the era, developed the rest cure in the late 1800s. It was used almost exclusively on women, particularly those diagnosed with hysteria, melancholy, or nervousness. Subjects were confined to bed for up to 60 days, often isolated, fed rich, fatty diets to nourish the nerves. Movement was discouraged. Reading was forbidden. One patient, writer Charlotte Perkins Gilman, later wrote a short story about her experience called The Yellow Wallpaper. In it, a woman slowly descends into madness under the exact conditions Mitchell prescribed. Sometimes none of it works. Sometimes you're too loud, too still, too inconvenient. That's what they bring out from the chair. The straps are thick leather, blackened with years of sweat and panic. You're tied down, wrists, ankles, chests, sometimes for hours, sometimes overnight. If you cry, they gag you. If you beg, they blindfold you. And when you finally stop struggling, they call it improvement. Real case file. Clara H. Age 21. 1881. Diagnosis: melancholia with excitability. Symptoms: repeated weeping, refusal to eat. Spoke of wanting to write poetry. Treatment: isolation, ice baths, full restraint for 7 days. Progress notes: silenced, passive, eyes dulled, no longer cries. They called her stable. She called herself gone. These aren't treatments, they are experiments with no hypothesis, no care for outcome. They strip you of your thoughts, your voice, yourself. And in the end, the worst part isn't the pain. It's that it becomes normal. When the tub no longer shocks you. When the straps feel familiar. When the silence tastes like safety. You've changed. And that's what they wanted all along. Therapy is over. Time to return to the others. You're not alone here. That might sound comforting. It's not. Everyone in this place is broken in a different way. Some were born that way. Others were broken into it. By grief, by war, by poverty, by people. These aren't just patients. They are stories. Unfinished, misunderstood, and now untold. Your ward holds 12 people, but some days it feels like 100. Each one living in their own world, each one a different kind of lost. There's a woman who never blinks. She stares at a crack in the wall and whispers numbers. No one knows why. No one asks anymore. There's the man who thinks he's being watched. By God, by the devil, by insects under his skin. He scratches all night. His sheets are stained red. And then there's a boy, barely 15, brought here for disobedience. He cries at night, softly into his pillow. You pretend not to hear. They call it madness. Sometimes it's just trauma with no words. You learn quickly who to avoid. The screamer, the groper, the one who bites. There are no locks between patients, no safeguards. You sleep beside strangers, eat beside them, live with them. Some lash out, some rot quietly. You learn not to flinch when someone yells. You learn not to comfort anyone. You learn to be invisible. The nurses move through the ward like ghosts with clipboards. Efficient, indifferent, cold. They were trained in order, not empathy. They administer medicine with the same hand they used to strike. Some of them were kind ones. You can tell by the way they hesitate before shouting. But the kindness is buried now, drowned in years of hopelessness and noise. Then there are the orderlies, big, brutal, uninformed. They don't speak unless it's a command. They don't touch you unless they have to. But when they do, it hurts. You learn their routines, their tempers. You learn what not to say. You learn to flinch before you're hit. A few patients are treated differently. They are quiet, predictable. They nod during sessions. They say thank you when given pills. The staff calls them improving, but you see the truth. Their eyes are flat. Their smiles are mechanical. They've become what the asylum wanted, harmless and empty. You wonder if that's better than what you're now, or worse. In the farthest bed lies a man they don't speak of. He arrived 6 years ago, never gave his name, refused to eat for 10 days. One day, he started to speak Latin, only Latin. When the priest came to see him, the priest left crying. Now, he doesn't speak at all. He just sits in the corner, always awake, always watching. If you pass too close, he grabs your wrist. He never says anything, but his grip is cold, like he knows something you don't. They call him the prophet. No one knows why. You used to think you were different, that you didn't belong here, that you were sane. But then you catch yourself rocking, whispering words under your breath, feeling comfort in the silence, avoiding mirrors. You start to wonder, what's the difference between surviving this place and becoming a part of it? Is it time, pain, tolerance, or simply forgetting who you were? There are days when the screaming stops, and it scares you more than when it was loud, because silence in here means surrender. These are the people around you. Some will die here. Some will be forgotten. Some might walk out, but no one leaves unchanged. Time for lunch, time to work, time to pretend you're still a person. Welcome to the second half of your day. It's lunchtime, or at least that's what the schedule says. You're not hungry, not really, but hunger doesn't matter here. Time passes by the bell, and the bell says, eat. You file into the dining hall, slowly, quietly. No one talks. The room smells like boiled turnip, old grease, and something faintly metallic. The windows are too high to see out of. One is cracked. No one ever fixes it. You take your place at the table. Same seat, same people. A nurse slaps down a bowl in front of you. Gruel again. Pale grey. Watery. Floating with soft unknown things. There's also bread. It's hard enough to chip a tooth. You eat anyway. Because you don't want to draw attention. Because you've learned. Full stomachs make quieter patience. One man refuses his food. He says it smells of sulfur, that it's poisoned. The nurse answers by pulling him to the ground and pinning him with her knee. A second nurse forces the spoon into his mouth. He chokes, swallows. Everyone keeps eating. On Sundays, sometimes, rarely, you get an apple. It's small, bruised, tart. It feels like treasure. You hold it carefully. You take your time. You taste it with your eyes closed. Not because it's delicious, but because it reminds you there's still something in the world with color. After lunch, you're sent to work. They call it occupational therapy. It's supposed to be good for your mind. You enter the task room. Grey walls, no clock. Long tables, low stools, and a stack of things that need doing. Wool to sort, socks to mend, threads to spin. Sometimes broken chairs to fix. Sometimes bricks to scrub. You're not paid, you're not thanked, but you're expected to be productive. You work beside the man who sobs quietly into the yarn. Beside the woman who stitches the same 3 letters into every cloth. Let me out. You scrub a tile for an hour. It doesn't come clean. You tie, twine, until your fingers bleed. You're told to keep going. You're given a brush and asked to clean the wall. But the wall isn't dirty. You realize it's not the point. It's not about fixing anything. It's about repetition, obedience, stillness. Work, they say, is healing. You know, it's just another kind of silence. If you were rich in the 19th century, your treatment might look very different. Private asylums offered music rooms, libraries, garden walks. Some even allowed visitors. servants, custom menus. But for the poor, the orphan, or the inconvenient, you were sent here to work, to rot, to disappear. Mental illness wasn't your affliction, poverty was. The hours drag, the hands cramp, the back aches. There is no laughter, no conversation, only the scratch of wool, the drip of a leaking pipe, the click of shoes passing outside the locked door. Eventually, the bell rings again. You're allowed to stop, but you don't feel rested. You don't feel accomplished. You feel used. And the day isn't over. Now comes the part they never write about in the pamphlets. The punishments, the rules, the consequences. The asylum has rules. Hundreds of them. Written rules, unspoken rules, rules that change depending on who's watching. And when you break them, you'll wish you hadn't. You're told the basics when you arrive. No speaking during meals, no touching other patients, no questioning staff, no sudden movements, no excessive emotion. Later, you realize the real rule is simpler. Be invisible. Too quiet and you're withdrawn. Too loud and you're disruptive. Too still and you're suspicious. Too emotional and you are regressing. There is no correct way to be, only less punishable. If you behave, really behave, you might be rewarded. A second apple, a short walk in the garden, a soft cloth for your pillow, a single book, not to keep, just to hold for an hour. Then it's locked away again. Sometimes they smile at you. That's how you know they're watching. You wonder if the rewards are real or just bait. Break a rule and they take you to the quiet room. It's not quiet. It's a stone box. No window, no bedding, no light. The door locks with a sound that echoes inside your teeth. You stay there for hours, sometimes days. You start talking to the cracks in the wall. Not because you've gone mad, not because they're the only things that listen. And when they let you out, they call it improvement. Some rules don't need to be broken. Sometimes they just say you seemed agitated. Then they bring out the chair. You're strapped in. Ankles, wrists, chest. Your neck itches, but you can't scratch it. You cough. No one responds. You stay like that for an hour or 3. The leather smells like old sweat and fear. The straps leave bruises that look like fingerprints. No one asks how you feel. They just write, patient resisted less than yesterday. Sometimes they make you stand for hours facing a wall. You're not allowed to move. If your knees shake, they shout. If you blink too much, they write it down. You learn to disappear inside yourself. Some patients stand for so long they forget how to sit. One man collapsed during punishment. They dragged him to his bed. No one ever saw him again. Mini case file. Agnes W. Age 39. 1872. Diagnosis: hysteria. Incident report: patient was found weeping during prayer. Failed to recite Psalm 91. Response: 3 days in restraint. Bread and water only. Outcome: subject now prays silently. Shows no further signs of emotional excess. They considered that a success. The nurses are the law. The orderlies are the executioners. The doctor is the judge. They don't need evidence, just suspicion, a note, a hunch. Your tone, your face, your silence. In here, guilt is something you don't need to prove. It's something they declare. Eventually, you stop trying to follow the rules. You just try not to be noticed. You eat without taste. Speak without tone. Look without seeing. You become smaller, quieter, duller. You stop dreaming because dreams are dangerous. Dreams make you think you're still a person. The day is almost done. One more meal, one more count, one more night in the dark. But darkness isn't rest. Not here. Night is falling. Not outside. You haven't seen the outside in weeks. But in here, night has its own weight. A stillness that presses into the bones. Heavy, thick, unforgiving. There's no rest in a place like this. Only intervals of darkness. You're lined up for final head count. 12 patients. One is missing. The nurse doesn't ask questions. She checks her clipboard. Shrugs. The doors are locked anyway. You glance down the hall. You think you see something move. But when you look again, there's nothing there. You don't ask. You're ushered into the chapel. Not for salvation, for surveillance. A priest recites a prayer no one understands. Half the row mumbles along. The other half stares at the floor. You keep your hands folded. You nod at the right time. That's what they want. Afterward, a nurse approaches. In her hand, a small metal tray. 2 white pills. A tiny cup of water. You take them. You don't ask what they are. You don't want to know. You return to your cot. Same straw mattress. Same thin blanket. Same draft through the broken window that no one ever fixes. You lie down. Your body is tired. But your mind is not. It never is. The pills are supposed to help. They don't. You stare at the ceiling. You try to count the cracks again. You lose track. You close your eyes. The asylum isn't quiet at night. It's louder. Somewhere someone is crying. A woman muttering prayers in Latin. Someone pacing back and forth, back and forth. You hear a scream. Then silence. You wonder if the staff heard it. You wonder if they care. You wonder if it matters. You wake up suddenly, heart pounding. Someone standing by your bed. You blink. It's just a coat hanging on a hook. Or maybe it isn't. You close your eyes again. Sleep comes in fragments, like broken glass, sharp, shallow, scattered. You dream of running, of open fields, of your name being called softly. And then you wake up, alone, still here. There are no clocks in your room, but you know the night is long. Long enough to forget the world exists. Long enough to remember things you wish you'd lost. Every sound could be something. A scuffle, a whisper, a door opening. You listen, you wait, you breathe. But you never truly sleep. Morning is coming. At least that's what they'll say. But you've stopped believing in morning. There's only one before the bell, and after, and the cycle begins again. This is the nightfall in the asylum. No dreams, no escape, no silence, only darkness and waiting. You made it. 3 hours. Locked inside a world that wasn't fiction. A world that once stood brick and mortar, bars and bolts, built not to heal, but to contain. And maybe now you understand something deeper. That madness wasn't always in the mind. Sometimes it was in the system. We call it history, but for millions, this was just life. A cry for help met with confinement. Emotion misread as illness. Curiosity punished as hysteria. Pain dismissed with a label and a locked door. No therapy, no compassion, just cold tubs, colder beds, and diagnosis scribbled by candlelight. The truth? Mental illness was never the crime. Being human was. So if you're still here listening, thank you. You chose to face something uncomfortable. You chose to look through the keyhole and see what we once called treatment. Now ask yourself, would you have survived it? Would you have lasted the bats, the pills, the silence, or would they have broken you? One rule, one restraint, one long, dark night at a time. This story isn't about just fear. It's about remembering. Remembering the people who were erased, the voices never heard, the names never recorded. This video is for them, and for anyone who has ever felt unheard, unseen, or unwell in a world that prefers silence to truth. If this story moved you, if you learned something or felt something, let it be known. Leave a comment. Tell us what part stayed with you. And most of all, subscribe, because we're not done yet. There are more shadows to explore, more truths buried in history's forgotten corners, and together we'll keep digging. You may leave the asylum now, but it never really leaves you.